Joining us now is the House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Mark Green. Mr. Chairman, thanks for being with us. President Trump responded to Fox Digital about Kim Cheadle stepping down. He said in part, quote, "She never gave me proper protection, so I ended up having to take a bullet for democracy. Many requests were made by on-site Secret Service for more people, always with a turn down or no response. I have the biggest crowds in history, and they should be treated accordingly." So members of Congress got their demand. Cheadle resigned, but the problem still has not been fixed. What should happen now?
Well, obviously, there are a lot of mistakes that were made. I just came out of our hearing right now talking to the Pennsylvania State Police and the discoveries of errors. Yesterday when we visited the site, and you mentioned I led a team there, we looked really at the planning phase, and we saw lots of errors there. And then we saw errors today in the actual conduct of this thing, communications, handoff of this suspicious person when it all happened. So the list is long, but I can launch into it if you want, but it's a lot of things that have to be addressed and addressed quickly.
Absolutely, Congressman. Welcome to you. You mentioned talking to the Pennsylvania State Police. This is the colonel explaining communications between local police, and this is key, with Secret Service in that moment. Listen.
There was a text thread that was going, I've been briefed, between the ESU members. They identified, they took a photo of him. At some point when he utilized the rangefinder, the suspicion was heightened. So I know at a certain point in the command post, a member of PSP received a phone call and a text message from members of ESU, and I know from an interview that was immediately relayed in the command post to the Secret Service.
I'm thinking text messages, phone calls, aren't they all coordinating on walkie-talkies, immediate device, exchange of information so that they can respond in a split second? What did you learn from that?
This has been a problem in our entire country, getting various levels of law enforcement on the same networks like we are in the military. When I was with Special Operations, these guys had satellite radios that everybody could talk to everybody. But that's not the way it is in law enforcement in the whole country, and it wasn't here. So these guys improvised. They sent a text picture 25 minutes before the president was shot, meaning about 10 to 12 minutes before he walked on stage, saying that a guy had used a rangefinder and was this suspicious person. Now, whomever at Secret Service didn't say, "Hey, Mr. President, let's hold up just a little bit until we find this guy," that guy needs to be fired. Whoever was in charge in that command center and didn't make that decision, that person needs to go as well.
Congressman, there's a couple of other issues, and they deal with the building that crooks used as a platform to try to assassinate the president. Was there a plan that for overwatch on that building? And then secondly, in the building just to the left of it, as we see in this map, apparently there were local police snipers on the second floor of that building, but they were called away from their position to try to go find crooks. And unbelievably, ironically, at the time that they were called away to go look for him, he was crawling up in the roof in what would have been full view of them.
Exactly. We just discovered this. So I asked the question myself. I said, did they notify someone at Secret Service that those two Overwatch positions were being basically unfilled as these gentlemen went and looked for the suspicious person? And he didn't have an answer. So we're going to have to get more granular to get the answer on that. If Secret Service knew that those two that were watching that rooftop were no longer there because they left to go find this guy. But think about it this way. Secret Service allowed or potentially allowed two counter snipers to leave their position to go look for a guy who's so suspicious that they're going to leave that position to go find him, and yet they let the president walk on the stage? That's ridiculous.
Okay, great. Congressman, come on back, because let's talk politics for a second. I know that you're Homeland Security, but this is all going to be part and parcel of the next administration. President Biden on Saturday morning apparently was all in, and then his aides came and presented him with data that said you're going to lose the election. 14 million people over the course of the primaries had said, "We want you to be the nominee," and then his aides come to him and say, they don't say, Mr. President, you're in such cognitive decline that you cannot continue for another 4 years. They said, here's data that you're going to lose, and he drops
Right.
out. So what happened to democracy in that whole process?
That's a great point, and I like to make the point, too, that they've known. Remember the Vietnam, I think it was a G7 speech he made. He was totally disoriented on stage. The Democrats have known, they've covered this up, and now they see they're going to lose. They're going to lose power, so now they want him to step down. It isn't about the functioning of the commander-in-chief. It has nothing to do for them. It's all about power. And so they've asked him to step down. My point is, well, if he's incompetent to run for president, how can he be commander-in-chief now? I mean, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, they want to see a commander who's commanding. And we don't have that right now. He's not capable of running for election. He's not capable to be the commander-in-chief.
All right. Congressman, appreciate you joining us and sticking
Thanks,
with us through the
guys.
breaking news with the president there. All right.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
And from one